where are they sitting if they have traded all these picks and maybe Giannis is still out and Steph is still out and then it's like you've got.
That trade would have been fully about next season sprint
I understand,
run.
but I'm just saying if you'd made that trade, you could be sitting here with none of those guys playing anyway, right? So like, and you're out all these picks. So, it's all part of the calculus, and it's obviously, I mean, Steph's one of the most fun players in the history of the league, and I hope we get to see him in the playoffs at least a couple more times, and hopefully he's able to get back out there and make a run at it. But this is all a normal part of things. I think the next guy to go to, for a variety of reasons, is Draymond Green. We talked about this a little bit before the break, but it was at least sort of uncertain as to what his future was going to be with the team going into the trade deadline. He had that sort of interesting eulogy for himself the Tuesday before, maybe trying to spin things in a certain way, whether to either try to not get traded or set his legacy if he was. But he wasn't traded, obviously, still on the team. And even less than about where things sit right now, where is your stance on his stock in relation to what the future holds in Golden State and what his situation is with that 27 or $28 million player option hanging out there for this summer?
Yeah, the last month or so, they play their best basketball when he's been off the floor, and really since Steph went out. And I think more and more at this stage of his career, offensively, it's becoming clear like he's tied to Steph, and he can be this like kind of the two man game stuff he does with Steph can unlock Steph, which is massive for their offense. And there's just the telepathy, however you say it, that they have with each other. But once Steph's off the floor, as Steve Kerr said, they really have trouble playing two bigs without Steph because the spacing issues become such a problem. And really, when you say spacing issues and you're talking about Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford, and Draymond Green, you're just talking about lineups where it's Draymond and
Draymond
another
on the
big.
court. Yeah.
Yeah. And Al Horford's had a great month of basketball. So they've closed with Al a lot of times in these big comebacks. You remember the comeback in Phoenix, the comeback over the Grizzlies. That's Al Horford and Guy Santos in the front court in both those games. This, for example, this two-gamer, Draymond plays in New Orleans. The offense is a little bit more stagnant. I didn't think he played a poor game, but like they just weren't able to unlock themselves as much in that game. He doesn't play in Memphis. Worst team, I would say, on the court from the Grizzlies, but they have a big night. Draymond didn't play against the Nuggets on the Sunday afternoon game, a late scratch, like right before tip. And Jokic was really exploited by Al Horford to start the game. 3 straight threes in the first quarter. Al Horford hit 6 threes. And the talk post game was about, kind of 5 out, spread it, shoot 52 threes Warriors because they're in this underdog, offensive situation. Like that's how they won that game. And that has more and more, I think, shine the spotlight on where Draymond's at this stage of his career, where it's odd because let's say they are in a 2-7 against the Spurs and Steph Curry's out there and Porzingis is healthy and this like idealized version of the Warriors that we're talking about. Like I, in my mind, see that series with Steph and Draymond out there and Draymond guarding Wembanyama and like him being a factor on both ends because of like some of the DHO stuff and the high pick and roll stuff with Steph. But also you can't ignore that, particularly when Steph's not on the floor right now, like they've just been performing better without Draymond.
Yeah. Yeah. All of which is interesting and also didn't answer my question about.
Oh, his $27 million player option. Like, I think he picks it up.
Well, just in general, like what do we think? What do we think his situation, like where is his stock in terms of his situation with the franchise moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a good discussion on it last time we talked about it, which is like they certainly opened the box to the idea of him being gone. And I, remember we talked about how at this deadline league wide, it was simpler or anytime you talked about veterans who had 1.5 years on their deal, the talk was like, just wait till they're expiring, the summer. I mentioned the Zach Levines, the, Klay Thompsons, there's a bunch of these guys around the league where everybody was saying, oh, it'll be a lot easier to add those salaries in the summer. Draymond, if he picks up the $27 million player option, which again, Rich Paul is his agent. There's a lot of ways to maneuver and use that as leverage and, try to see if the Warriors, as he did the last time he had a player option, it was a decline and an extend off of it. Sure, that's something that, Rich Paul and Draymond would be interested in. I'm not sure the Warriors would be. We'll see. Again, this is all months from now business. But I don't know Steve Kerr's future. I don't know Kristaps Porzingis' future. I don't know Draymond Green's future. It's to be decided, and I do think how he plays and how they play down the stretch matters. But certainly, exiting year 14, this is about as unsettled as his future with the franchise probably has been in forever, or in his career.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said. The irony of the Draymond situation is that he can really, at this point, only effectively play with Steph, which has always been this superhuman thing for them, right? And at the same time, if you can only play him with Steph's going to miss a decent number of games, and Steph also can only play so many minutes. So, it makes for an interesting situation, and it is going to be fascinating to see what the Warriors do this summer with him and in general. Do we think there's any world where he would opt out and take some lower number for more years to try to stay there for sure longer?
Yeah, I mean, look, if he was at a lower number for the next 2, 3, 4 years, it'd be a lot easier to just be like, look, he's kind of a bench player, but he's like basically a coach. I mean, look, for years we all know he's like basically their defensive coordinator or one of them. He's when locked in, he's one of.
I mean, this is what I was thinking of. If you're Draymond Green, so he's owed $27 million.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you take a 3-year, $27 million deal with a no trade clause? Take the money and then make sure you finish your career there.
This is speculation by me. I have not had this discussion with him, but I will say, knowing him, I don't know that he's going to sign up for 2 extra years of work for the same amount of money. Just from a calculation standpoint.
No, I get it, but I'm just saying, and I don't think the Warriors are going to give him no trade clause. I
think if you said 3 for 40, 3 for 45,
but I'm not giving him that. I'm giving him I'm making this up because again, Steph Curry didn't get a no trade clause, so I don't think Draymond Green's getting one. But if his goal is to finish his career as a Warrior, it just would be interesting if they said, "Hey, we'll give you no trade clause. We're going to take the money you're going to get this year, and we'll give it to you over 3 flat." Right? It's just an interesting thought exercise as to what he would do. I'm with you. I think he probably would say,
"He's a businessman.
No thanks." Yeah, I think he'd probably take the money. But if it was a way to ensure he finished his career with Golden State, I don't know. It'd be an interesting thought exercise. It's just one that I don't think is rooted in reality.
Did they just admit the Warriors are playing better without Draymond? No, seriously, did you hear that part? Because if you blinked, you missed one of the most uncomfortable truths of this entire season. On the Warriors stock report, when they started breaking down the numbers, one line jumped off the screen. The Warriors have been playing their best basketball lately with Draymond Green off the floor, especially since Steph went out. That's not a random fan take. That's coming from people who cover this team every single day. Now, before everybody loses their mind in the comments, slow down. This is not Draymond is washed. This is not trade him tomorrow. This is about fit. It's about context. It's about reality in 2026. Here's the issue they laid out. Draymond, at this stage of his career, is tied to Steph offensively. When Steph is on the floor, the two-man game works. The handoffs, the high pick and roll, the telepathy. Draymond unlocks Steph. That's always been the cheat code. But when Steph sits, the spacing collapses, and that's when the offense starts to look stuck. They even brought up how Steve Kerr has struggled playing 2 bigs without Steph because of spacing problems. And when you say spacing problems in this context, you're basically saying Draymond becomes the non-shooter teams ignore. That's harsh, but that's the modern NBA. If you can't stretch the floor and Steph isn't bending the defense for you, things get tight fast. Now look at the recent games they referenced. Big comeback in Phoenix, comeback against Memphis, closing lineups featuring Al Horford and Guy Santos in the front court, 5-out spacing, let it fly, shoot 53s if you have to. And it worked. When Draymond missed that Nuggets game late, Horford starts the first quarter hitting 3 straight threes on Jokic. The post-game talk? Spread the floor, play fast, underdog offense. That's where the tension starts, because in a theoretical playoff series, say against San Antonio or OKC, you can absolutely picture Draymond guarding Wembanyama. You can picture him being a defensive chess piece. You can picture the Steph-Draymond synergy mattering again. But in this in-between stretch, in these regular season survival games, the numbers and the eye test are pointing in an uncomfortable direction. And then they pivot to the future. Year 14, a $27 million player option this summer, and one of the most telling words used to describe his situation, unsettled. When was the last time Draymond Green's future in Golden State felt unsettled? That's not a small word. That's a crack in the foundation. There's even the financial side. Would he pick up the option? Would he decline and extend? Would the Warriors want to commit long-term at a lower number? Would he take less to guarantee finishing his career in Golden State? They floated hypotheticals, and even they admitted, this is business now, not just legacy. And that's what makes this so fascinating, because Draymond Green has been the emotional engine of the dynasty, defensive coordinator on the floor, culture setter, tone changer. But time hits everyone. Steph's window is narrowing, Draymond's athletic margin is thinner, and the Warriors are clearly experimenting with lineups that don't depend on him the same way. That doesn't mean he's done. It doesn't mean he's not crucial in a playoff setting. It means the Warriors are quietly testing life outside the old formula, and that's a big deal. So here's the real question I'm throwing to Dub Nation. If the Warriors continue to play clear offense without Draymond during this stretch, does that change how you view his future with the team? Or is this just a temporary adjustment until Steph returns healthy and they look dangerous again? Because if Steph returns healthy and they look dangerous again, the conversation flips instantly. But if this spacing trend continues, this summer could be louder than anyone expects. Drop your honest take in the comments. Is this overblown, or are we watching the beginning of a transition era? Hit like if you appreciate real conversations about this team, and subscribe, because if this storyline explodes heading into the offseason, we're breaking it down in real time.